Right, welcome to part 2 of our Claret Blue live show. We're delighted to be joined by James Rushton and Ashley Preece.
Hello.
A round of applause, please.
How is everyone?
This section will be a question and answer. I'll send the mic around into the audience in a second. But Ash, I've got to start with you. Been missing for a year. We qualified for the Champions
Been good,
League.
ain't it?
It's been pretty good, hasn't it? How have you seen this season?
I've loved it.
As a fan?
As a fan, yeah, I can celebrate goals again. I've been screaming down the living room. I've been bashing. You put your feet on the puff. I've been like, yes, yes. So my neighbours have been loving me, but I've been loving every second.
Yeah.
It's just what a season. As a fan again, going down the social, down the Witten Arms, with the lads on the lash, Villa scoring goals. Been brilliant, mate.
That all sounds really good, but did you miss anything that John's experienced?
You was telling me about the European trips earlier with all the national reporters, because there's some cases there in Athens and like Lille, and nice to have some hotel stays with all the reporters, because in this game you don't get much downtime with them. You're beaving away, whereas the European trips, I think you can have a beer and some food with them. So I'll probably miss the European trips and next year as well, Bernabeu. But yeah, I'll be putting down the Perry Beaches or something instead, watching it. But oh well.
Always involves a beer, doesn't it? Oh, there's a fan, or there's a reporter. There's always a beer in there somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
James, yourself, obviously you come on the podcast every so often.
Yeah.
We've not chatted to you for, I don't know, maybe the start of the season.
Yeah.
What a season we've had.
I'm honestly really depressed it's over. I just wanted it to last forever. You know, it has to end. But also, controversially, I'm going to really miss the Conference League. There's a few people I've seen in the room who I've seen on the trips, and it's little weird trips. It wasn't the bigger teams until later on. All due respect to Legia Warsaw. But those are amazing trips, and in the Champions League, it's going to be pricier. It's going to be better destinations for travel. But the Conference League was some adventure. It's a shame we couldn't go all the way, but get the cherry on the icing on the cake, almost cherry on top.
Before we go into the questions, we'll do this with Matt Lynch and Dan Bardell in the second half as well, the third half. Can't have a third half, can you? Let's do predictions for next season very quickly, something that we just want to put on record. I felt like this was a little bit too early, but obviously we did it at the live show last year, which was June as well. So we'll start from furthest away. Just a prediction for next season, Ash, whether it's a league position, a trophy win.
I'm in Kendo, I want a trophy. I want the FA Cup, or I want something silver and shiny, and bus parade, and get on the beers again. Yeah.
Good. It's always beers. James, your prediction for next season?
I'm praying it's not a long Champions League run for my bank account, to be honest. Selfish, because that was bad. Third and a cup win.
Third?
I'm going to go up this year, because last year, so I always want to manage expectations, but just dream and have a little fun. It doesn't matter. Third and a cup win.
Third and a cup win. What a season that'd be. Matt, a prediction for yourself?
You've set the bar now, haven't you, boy? Is this kind of leading up to you glorifying and you getting your prediction right last time?
We're just getting ready for next summer.
I don't know. I'm going to dampen the mood, but I don't think we'll finish in the top 4.
I think say what you want, though. It doesn't matter.
I think nobody's listening. I think we'll finish in European places again. I think we'll progress to. Let's be bold. Let's progress to the last 8 of the Champions League, which is quite a statement. Quite a statement. I really want us to win something, but I don't think we will. To be honest, even with our Lord and Master in charge, I don't think we will. But yeah, so let's go that fifth in the Premier League, last 8 of the Champions League, a heroic 9-8 defeat in the FA Cup final to bloody Manchester United, probably.
I've got to go even bigger now if you're going last 8 in the Champions League. John, you two are now sharing a mic, by the way, so any predictions?
Coefficient FC, 5th place, Champions League. You're kind of going back down that route, aren't we? I think we can finish 4th again. I really do. As I said earlier, I don't know how far we're going to go in the Champions League. 8 games alone will just be fantastic. So, we could have months remaining of the campaign still to climb the table. I don't think we'll be in the position where we were this season, where we were 4th, 5th, 4th. It will be fluctuating, but we can have a run at the end of the season if we keep our players fit. I don't doubt we'll have some injuries throughout the season, but can it be as bad as it was last season in terms of the injuries? I don't think so, and that's flown under the radar across the outside, shall I say. So, I'll say 4th again.
Okay. I think we'll win the Premier League. No, I'm joking. I don't know what I do off last season. Obviously, I went 4th, did 4th. You said 3rd. You've gone last 8 of the Champions League. I can't go bigger than that. in a serious manner. I also thought fourth was what I was going to say, I think, and a trophy as well. Maybe League Cup. It's probably our most achievable for whatever reason. Like we said before, it feels like you win 3 games and you're in a semi-final. Like that feels doable. Okay, right. Well, those are on record then for next summer. We'll see who comes closest. We'll ask Dan and Matt the same afterwards. We'll do the Q&A then. You can obviously ask us whatever you like, to Ash, to James, Matt, John or myself or whoever. We have a mic somewhere for the audience. Whoever wants to go first, I'll give it to you, and then it's your responsibility to pass it on to somebody else.
Question for whoever. There's been a lot of noise this season of Villa fans leaving early when we've been behind. I think one example of that was Chelsea in the FA Cup. We were 3-0 down, but we were still kind of in the game. There's still a bit of momentum. And a Chelsea player went down injured in about 80 minutes, and the place emptied out, and the game kind of fizzled out after that. I know there's been quite a few other examples of that, Spurs at home being the other ones, but what are your thoughts on leaving games early when we're behind?
I'll take that one. I love what Unai Emery's done to us, that we're 3-0 down to Chelsea and we're still in the game. I love that. I love that optimism. I wasn't at that game. I was drunk in a bar in Manchester, so I left super early by not getting there. It's an awkward one, isn't it? I mean, the one that particularly frustrated me, I think it was more to do with the scheduling of the game than anything, was the Liverpool game on the final home game of the season on a Monday night. And I fully understand it's a school night. You know, I think my lad had got one of his GCSEs or something the following day. People have to travel. I begrudge having to travel all the way from Halesowen. I'm of the opinion lots of people have been turning up to Villa Park early to cheer the players as they've arrived at the ground. I can't be asked to get there and do that, so I can't suddenly become super preachy about the ones. I'm like, well, you've done nothing yet. Forget last time. You've got to entertain me tonight before you get a round of applause from me. But I think I don't think we can be preachy about it. All I'd say is that when you're in the stadium, I think this is something that Emery really has trained us and coached us in. Be patient, be supportive. You know, that doesn't mean that we can't get frustrated when things go wrong, but if you can do your bit for the 85, 87 minutes, 81 minutes that you're in the ground, I don't think we can be too, the superior fan about those who choose to leave a little bit early.
Yeah, I'll echo what you say, and I'll wary of our guests here to do the Q&A, so I'll hand over to one of you two for that question.
I've got a good story this year. First game I took my old man down to Crystal Palace when Duran scored that goal. My first game for my dad, we bought my dad a Claret membership. Yeah, Dad, come down with us. He sits in his house now. He likes to watch football in the house. Took him down there. 1-0 down to Palace, 85th minute. My dad's like, you fit? Let's go. Come on. I've had enough. Oh, God's sake, I took you down the Villa today. It's moody. Okay, walked out, 1-1. Walking down Whitton Lane, 2-1. Mate in a taxi, 3-1. Well, I walked down to Moor Lane, and ever since that game, it's in August or September, I said to my dad and my brothers and everyone, I ain't leaving a game early again now. So that's my rule, and I've stayed to the death now for the last 15 games. So that's a funny old story, but I'm not leaving early again now after that.
Yeah, we talked about this before. I think we've did a whole segment in an episode once about the whole leaving early thing, and I fall between stay and support the team, it helps, the atmosphere is important, and also do what you want. I don't care. If you need to leave early, leave early. Who am I to judge somebody for going home 5 minutes early or whatever? I don't care, to be honest.
Same as Ash. But my story is Sheffield United 3-3. Everyone gone home, and I've seen nuts game. Yeah. So that's just I always have that in the back of my head, even if we're 4-1 down. It's just it's still a chance. Yeah. And there never really is, but that one game. You never know. Yeah. That one game, and it's when you leave early, it will happen. So keep it going.
Right, let's go on to our next question then. I'm sure someone else from John Townley's table will have a question for John Townley later.
Wonderful podcast. Thank you for what you do. Really appreciate it. Fast forward, it's 2029. Right. The master plan from Edens and Suarez has been delivered. Unai's in his final year of his contract. Where do you think Aston Villa will be?
I'm sure we would have won a trophy by then. Maybe more. We would have qualified for the Champions League again. I think the main thing is trophies. I just think with Emery, we're only going one way, and I don't see us having that. We might have one season where we drop out, potentially, and then we have to rebuild again, because 5 years in football is a long time. 5 years ago, we were in the Championship, or just got promoted 5 years ago. So a lot can change, a lot can happen. But we have the stability in the football department, don't we, to make a success of 5 years plus. I also think Emery could be signing a new contract as well during that time, if everything's going well, because there isn't another club in world football that would give him what he has at Villa. So why leave unless he wants a new experience? But again, 5 years, that's a long way down the line. Silverware would be my answer.
Yeah, it's kind of scary because you don't want to say the big things that we have to wait to the end, because you kind of think there's so much momentum now in this season. But I'm completely with John. You look back, you're just in, the stability, the establishment, and maybe Aston Villa can be that club that challenges for the title when other teams are changing their managers. Liverpool, new manager. Man City, I hope to God, like a new manager next season, the season after. Sorry, not next season. The stability with Aston Villa's there to see, and maybe that can pay. That is what pays the fruit, rather than buying, having the massive budgets, having the constant success. Maybe it's Aston Villa's stability. They've shown the backing they've given to Unai Emery that we'll look back after 2029 and say that's what delivered it. Those decisions to put Unai Emery firmly at the centre of the football club. And
his target is to win the Premier League title, by the way. He has said that. So if we said it, it's not so crazy. But then, 2 hours ago, Manchester City, it comes out that Manchester City are trying to sue the Premier League for stopping them from increasing their sponsorship revenues and stuff with the Etihad Airways, etc. So that sort of stuff kind of, Villa are competing against the Big Six cartel, and they can do that, but as long as the rules permit them to do it. If football just blows up again, and we're talking Super Leagues in the next 12 months, again, 5 years is a long, long time. But as it stands, who knows? Maybe we can dream and compete for a league title in that time.
One clap. Good. Fair play, John. Right, another question?
There's stress, and then there's Villa stress. What's been the most stressful game this season?
Come on, lads, one of you first. I know that I need to come to John for this 100%, but an answer either of you on the spot?
Got to be one of the Man U ones, isn't it? Surely. Man U away, 2-0 up, cruising.
Yeah.
Throwing it away, Man U home played well. It was Man U, isn't it?
Got to give a shout. I've thrown my love out for the Conference League, so I have to give a shout to the Olympiacos home one, because you kind of saw the dream die really quickly in front of you, and you thought Villa can go and do it. They couldn't. It's like that two-legged stress was. It's not just one game; it's the expectation, the hope. Again, gone. So just waiting there, Villa fans baking in the sun.
Lille as well, penalty shootout, obviously very, very stressful. John, I've got to come to you for this because we talk a lot about how you are during games and kind of trying to contain yourself in the press box. The amount of times you've messaged me mid game on Slack or WhatsApp, whatever, going, mate, I'm shaking. This is so stressful. Firstly, why are you like that, and how bad can it get?
Well, firstly, when Ash was saying about being back as a fan, I didn't realise how much I'd missed that element, because if we score a goal, I need to remain professional, but I also will shake the reporters next to me because you want that moment. Tottenham was the most stressful game, I think, that I can remember, because the way they play is just so full on, and it was constant barrage, and the linesman was our best friend on that day. Lille away, the penalty shootout, the extra time, the Mike Ash goal was... I was really close to it there. And you were sat right at the top where the Villa analysis team is. So you're living it with them. I feel like I'm part of the club almost. After that, it was like a massive relief of stress. The whole season, to be honest, is like actually going for something.
It's weird, isn't it? Because you think that, well, once we're up there, we'll kind of just, enjoy the ride. But when you have that pressure of we have to win every single week to achieve something, that pressure is different to just picking up the odd win here and there to just of be mid-table.
And that's why my favourite wins of the season was Luton away. It was Fulham. It was those games. Man City at home, Arsenal at home, fantastic, of course. But it was on the line. You were really feeling it in those moments. So when Dean scored, the relief of that goal against Luton, Fulham, when Martinez made that save, those are the moments for me that stand out in the season, and that I won't forget. So it's kind of you make to suffer in the matches, but then it makes it all better afterwards.
Yeah, I think West Ham away for me, just because of a peculiar set of circumstances, because I blagged my way in. I don't do this very often, but I blagged my way in on a corporate ticket. But I was sat amongst the West Ham fans, And obviously VAR went into overdrive, didn't it, that day? And ultimately we escaped with what was a good point. But we were sat amidst the West Ham fans who all seemed very polite and very friendly and very corporate during the early stages of the game. But when that VAR decision that took about 6 minutes to resolve, did it, for that disallowed goal, there were kind of snarling faces. There were, it was like kind of Green Street or Football Factory or something like that. They were all seeing proper old school West Ham. Probably helped they look a bit like Alf Garnett. So I probably fitted in okay there. But me and my son were just like, okay, how do we act to a level that we look like we're frustrated by what's going on, but not expose ourselves as Villa fans? And it was like, so when the decision went our way and we escaped with a point, like my lad was like, Dad, I've had such a head rush because I just had to keep it all inside. I was like, shh, just let's get out of here and let's just enjoy the point. And even then, I thought that was going to be a significant point. I didn't realise quite how significant at the time, because I thought we'd still have a little bit more leeway. But some big moments like that, there's some big points that just got us over the line in the end.
Yeah. Okay. Next question, please.
Hello, boys. Great podcast.
Thank you.
We will see Matt on that bloody bike one day.
We won't.
Buendia, Tyrone Mings, Boubacar Kamara, when they come back, it's going to be like 3 great new signings, isn't it? So my question is this, FFP or PSR, whatever it's called, we've got to take those into account. So realistically, who would you like to see as really good signings for next season?
James, any names?
Honestly, I have not. I've had an idea of like a project, not a name, and it's the smart signing. So I don't have a name for you, but I've got the idea of like the Morgan Rogers types, the surprising ones where you think, I can't really see how this works, and like the rumor of Weston McKennie, that kind of thing, and it could be whispers in the wind, whatever. But the idea that Villa want a certain type of player to name prove them. It's not always the name you think or the name you expect, but it's a name that Emery's picked out. And I think like this is obviously a really, really boring answer. When I used to be, working with you guys, I'd have a list of like 40 players, and I'd like, this would have been the Tony Jar signing, this would have been the Randy Lerner signing.
So unless we pay you, you're not going to give us a name.
you got to get me on payroll for those answers. But the idea that the signing is unfashionable. It isn't the really, the blockbuster signing. It's the Ross Barkley, the surprises, the big names will come eventually. It's about building that platform, and I think the idea that the potential, the Morgan Rogerses, the Ross Barkleys, they don't really scream to you as a starting 11 players. But by the end of the season, under Emery, who knows?
Yeah, I agree. We need to improve the squad, first and foremost. 2 names that I'd shout out would be Conor Gallagher and Youssouf Fofana. I think we need to improve that midfield, especially, and I know those 2 players aren't like for Kamara, but we need players who can fill in and at least do a role. We missed Kamara so badly when he wasn't playing for us. So that needs to be plugged next season. I think in defence, we're okay. If Carlos goes, we'll have to bring a new body in. But in terms of star signings, I think midfield is probably where we're going to see that take place.
Cheers for the coverage this season, lads. It's been brilliant to watch. I just wanted to ask, it's 10, 15 years' time. The Claret Blue podcast is still going strong. And Unai Emery's tenure has ended at Aston Villa. But you managed to get him on the podcast. What's the one question all of you would be asking Unai Emery about his tenure right now?
How did you win 5 Champions Leagues in a row? How did you do it? I don't know. I mean, the thought of the Claret Blue podcast still going in 15 years' time feels quite likely. I feel like one of us might die before that happens.
Probably take the Claret Blue podcast not going and Unai Emery still being here. To be honest, if we had the choice,
self-deprecating. Like I said, why us? Like why for all the projects did you pick this and deliver? I think you picked a good question. Like how did you do it? Is a great one, but why? What was it about Aston Villa that made you, after saying no to so many other teams, so many other projects? Why was it Aston Villa? What was said? And I'm not the PR answer that you give when people are like the real answer. What was it that stirred that you need to move away? Set up base, drag how many assistants with you, and not just assistants, people higher up and deliver a project. Why was it us?
Do you know what I'd ask him? Who shall we appoint as your successor? That's the thing.
Well, Alex Ferguson didn't do it.
No, it wouldn't be David Moyes, I don't think. It might be what they did with when Arsene Wenger left. They'd probably appoint that successor, wouldn't they? That wouldn't be too bad, would it? Yeah. Get Unai back in.
Give him some time.
The thought of us being without him now, it upsets me. I can't enjoy what's happening because I know it's going to end.
No, it's such a sad way of looking at it, isn't it? What's mad is that talk about 10, 15 years, 15 maybe a slight stretch, but you could see Emery being here for 10 years and settling down, like you say, James, like this is his kind of hub now, this is his home, this is the long-term project that we're all kind of buzzing over, 18 months, is it 2 years? It could genuinely be like a 10-year career, couldn't it, Ash?
Yeah, for sure. He loves it, doesn't he? He lives and breathes it. He's got his team here, new contracts, what's not to love, and you know what you say, you can't see him not being here.
I'd like to know what happens if I had a wisdom ball. I could see what happens in the future. Then I would be able to talk to him. But I'm with Matt. It would be more of a heartbreak. So you'd probably need a few weeks or months to get over it. But yeah, in 5-10 years' time, I think the club, the position that they're in with the owners as well. I think that's the key thing. You know, Unai is the best thing to happen to Villa in the last 4 years.
That's 4 years. That's 40 years.
4 years, of course. Yes, yeah, of course. Well, this is my point, actually. Sawiris and Eden's taking control of the club. We were only going in one direction before they came in. So full credit to them for putting everything into Emery, because there were still doubts about him, not from us, but from elsewhere about, he hasn't done it in the Premier League, and he's obviously put that to bed.
I was really, really fed up towards the end of last season with the coverage that the lack of coverage, should I say, that we got from the press, the main boys. Nobody gave us credit for what we was doing. We sort of came under the radar, and I sort of got the impression that they didn't like us finishing fourth. They'd rather have been a Spurs or a Man U or a Chelsea. But it really, really peeved me that we didn't get the recognition we deserved. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, we've spoken about this before, haven't we? Sometimes you really care and you think, come on, give us a bit of something, like give us some credit. And then you kind of think, well, actually, it's kind of nice to go under the radar a little bit and kind of do our own thing. We spoke about this in a whatever episode recently about how, I think it was Jamie Redknapp saying, well, Spurs are in pole position now for top four, whilst being in fifth, and Villa are already fourth. And it's kind of that kind of stuff annoys me. But generally, as a bigger picture thing, just let us get on with it.
The Big Six, because it's worldwide. It's what people talk about. If you turn on Sky Sports tomorrow, it will be about Big Six teams. Or that isn't anything on Sky Sports, but anywhere. That's the case. Villa fans, I would indulge in Man United's crisis next season as well, but I wouldn't care what Crystal Palace are doing if they do well. So I think it's a bit of, we want the kind of adulation from outside, but their agenda is also going to be fueled by what people want to watch. Does a Crystal Palace fan want to watch about Aston Villa and listen about what's happening there, or do they want to hear about Chelsea failing again and the manager getting sacked? It would be that. I think that's the way that some media is going now. It's, a lot of fan channels and stuff like us guys. You can voice your opinion, and I just think in certain places there's more interest in other things than Aston Villa last season, if you're from the outside. And I don't mind it particularly, but I understand there was less kind of positive energy towards Villa than what there probably should have been, and less recognition about injuries, etc. But I think that's because people will focus on other things, to be blunt.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that annoys me is, and this might surprise you because I'm a massive gob myself, but when you get the likes of Andy Goldstein on TalkSport and they make these and I know they're kind of hooking us in, and know that that's what they trade in, but they make these really ill-informed statements that could be knocked down quite easily. The Emery to Man United narrative all the time because he's kind of plastic Man United fan, which is fine, but there should be a responsibility of somebody on that show to hold him to account and to, who'd have thought that Gabby would be our main kind of voice of reason across the national airwaves. But fair play to him, he's at least representing, isn't he? He's representing Aston Villa. It's like when you get ignorant narratives that I don't mind if people ignore us, but don't create stories or topics of conversation without at least introducing some kind of informed debate to it. So anybody who knew anything about Unai Emery and how the club was set up to indulge Unai Emery and to support Unai Emery would realise that it wouldn't just take somebody fluttering their eyelashes at him to get him out of there. It would take another project that would have to give him complete control, and it's more the ignorance really that annoys me about it, I think.
Spot on. It must be a producer-led or something. It's a Big Six narrative all the time. A lot of the time I'm swearing at the radio and YouTube, what are you on about, you nutter? But at the same time...
That's what they want though, isn't it? They want you to ring up.
It's clickbait. That's what they want. They want you to call up and have a go at you. And they're just baiting you, really. It is annoying. I ain't bothered by it, really. Although I do swear at what are you on about? But it's what they're fishing for.
It's why the narrative changes as well, isn't it? At some stage, at some point in the next weeks and months, it'll be, well, this just must be Unai Emery's level. Then he's settling for. You can't do it at an elite club. This must be middling top four. Never any kind of proper credit given, which is I don't really care, to be honest. What does Andy Goldstein know? Nothing. Next question, please.
Yeah, just going back to the Big Six team. How do you see Villa ever getting to be in the Big Six? Can we ever get there?
Villa want Grade 8, which is them and Newcastle, basically. But again, that's going to take years to do. Clubs have had decades to build revenues before we have been in this position where we're slowly building with Adidas, Betano, other things are going on. And by the way, we are growing, and that is helped because we're so good on the pitch. But as Chris Heck said, they're like two trains. Villa on the pitch is here, Villa off the pitch is here. In terms of revenue, it needs to grow and it needs to catch up. That won't be quick, but we'll get there. Again, though, where's football going to be in 3 years? Not to sound really sad about it, but the Super League will be back on the table in 2 weeks probably. Things are going to change. The Premier League might have more European positions open. Champions League change this season. A lot of change will happen, but if Villa can continue as they're going with revenue, we'll be happy supporters, put it that way.
I always remember Dean Smith's line. He said, Big Six, they're the top six. Big Six is a myth, he always say. Big Six, who's in the top 6 places now? So he was disregarded that anyway. I know it's a narrative in the media, but in terms of Villa and how they look at it, I think they should look at it. We're top 6, we're top 4, we're the big 4, I think.
David Ornstein's released a story that Villa are already in talks with Conor Gallagher. So following on from the conversation earlier on, do you think Gallagher and Barkley would be a suitable replacement for Louise? And secondly, it seems Duran, story won't go away about him leaving either. Keep or sell? Just a quick question for everyone there.
We had a big John Duran debate, didn't we, you and I, John, a few weeks ago on the podcast, which probably could have been its own episode. It went on so long. I think sell for Duran if a decent offer comes in. I just think there's something there, there's potential there, but is it too much of a headache to just deal with and go, right, there's 20 million or whatever it is, just I could do without that, let's reinvest it somewhere else. The first bit about Louise, Barkley and Gallagher and Barkley instead of Louise probably is just about okay, I think. It's weird, but Gallagher, because I've said before on the podcast, when we played Chelsea and stuff I just don't really like him, which I know is a dangerous game to play when, I don't know different games, but teams eventually sign these players sometimes. You go, I quite like him now that he plays for us, but do you know what I mean? There's always something about him. I was a bit I'm not sure if he's that good. Then when your club is signed with him, linked with him for 40-odd million, you kind of have to go, maybe I need to reassess my own thoughts now. But I think there's a decent player in there, and there's one of you said earlier about the boring answer is just go, well, trust Emery. If Emery sees something in Gallagher and can make him better, I will just kind of go, yeah, okay, I agree with that.
I think he's class, I do. Conor Gallagher, I think he's really, really good. Just going back to that game at Villa Park, I thought the energy that he showed, I thought he was able to really dictate play and dominate the game, which maybe it's because of the stage of season that he played against the tired, depleted, jaded midfield, but I thought he was a class act. And I think it's a crying shame that of all the bad decisions Chelsea had made and all the signings that they've made, that, again, kind of FFP leads to you selling a kind of asset and a kind of jewel in the crown like that. I won't cry too much if he ends up at Aston Villa, but I'd like him. I think he excites me. I'm not 100% convinced it will happen, but I'm excited that we're talking about the possibility of it.
Yeah, same for me. Big Conor Gallagher fan, Matt, as well. Captain Chelsea got a bit about you. I know John Terry raved about him as well. His running stats are great, presses really well, like you say. The Villa Park game, Villa trying to play it from the back, Conor Gallagher's racing round, squeezing everyone, and Villa are losing the ball, and I think he'd be a really good asset Shane will have to lose Douglas Luiz, but I think John alluded to it earlier. I don't want to lose Martinez. I don't want to lose Watkins. And if there's one fall guy, Dougie's had a great... Alex been there 5 years since promotion. 15 million quid. He's done well for us, really has. So yeah, Barkley, 5 million quid. Good. Looked brilliant last season. And Conor Gallagher, England player, captain of Chelsea last season for parts. Yeah, it does make sense. Hopefully it happens.
An if at the moment in terms of Gallagher, but I'd love to have him playing for Villa as well. He's a player that the fans will take to after the first 5 minutes of him playing at Villa Park. And Barkley, tick for me. Duran, I'd expect him to go if a club matches Villa's valuation. And there's obviously no shortage of interest in him, so that'll be one that, I don't know, could go on for weeks and weeks, but Villa will have to then get a replacement for Duran as well, which is worth thinking about.
Quick show of hands, who thinks Gallagher would be a good signing? Okay, I'm in the minority. That was quite a lot, by the way, for the audio listeners. A lot of people put their hands up then.
Left of field question then. The apocalypse has happened.
This is what I'm here for.
Birmingham City, you're in the Champions League, right? How do you survive the zombie apocalypse?
Haven't they won their biggest trophy anyway? Aston Villa get knocked out of a semi-final of a European competition. Wasn't that their biggest cause for celebration this year anyway? Isn't that as good as it gets? How refreshing and how fun it is that, you know, we hark back to probably when they came back. I don't want to talk about Birmingham City very much, but you started it. They came back into the Premier League and it was horrible. I thought the first couple of occasions at St Andrews and Villa Park, it was like 16 years of resentment and hostility festering. And they got it over us, hadn't they, for a couple of years. And then we end up falling out of the league and being in the Championship and being at their level again. We're miles apart, aren't we? I think it's probably as far apart as I can remember us being from them in my lifetime. We're Aston Villa, aren't we? We don't need to worry about teams. We don't need to. This is proper delusions of grandeur. We don't need to worry about teams outside of the top 4 in English football, let alone teams outside of the top 2 divisions. So let them have their fantasy Champions League apocalypse. But whatever they do, we'll double it, we'll treble it. We'll always be the pride of Birmingham.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah, hi everybody. Just an observation first about Villa being on the kind of international world stage, so to speak. It can't hurt that the future King of England is a regular attender at Villa Park, so that's going to raise our visibility, I guess. But the question was about Tyrone Mings. I'm just a little worried about that injury and whether he can come back from it. What's the panel's thoughts on that?
It was worse than Buendia's. I think we all are aware of that. Mings is back on the grass as such, playing with the ball. I don't think there's any contact yet. So I don't know whether he'll be ready for the first month, 2 months, first game of the season. That's kind of up in the air. He's been himself relatively secretive with it, Mings. He's obviously sent lots of videos and bits and bobs, kind of sharing different things, but hasn't really said exactly where he's at. But it's been good to see that he's got his kind of muscle back in his leg for a start. He had loads of muscle wastage. I think everyone's probably seen that. And when he comes back, it will be, you know, something to remember for him and for fans, to be fair, when he comes back at Villa Park. As a player, he's obviously been to lots of games and the fans have chanted his name. Buendia as well. It'll be a really nice moment for him. But on Mings, what I'm glad most about is that he's managed to occupy himself in terms of... He's been in the USA, training, improving his load. We all know what happened before when he was at Bournemouth, when he kind of went down a dark hole. And it's nice to see that he's managed to pick himself up from that. Because the first thing I think a lot of us fans thought when he went down against Newcastle was actually this is what really hurt him mentally as well for a long, long time at Bournemouth. So I'm glad for him, of course, that he's in a really good place, and I'm sure he's not far away now. So kind of light at the end of the tunnel as such, I think, is where it's at, but I don't have a specific timeline.
Yeah, it'd be good to see him back, hopefully, but it's a bad injury, wasn't it? We'll never know until he's out there.
If it's a question of physicality, I don't know the ins and outs of the injury, perhaps as much as you, John. I remember us talking on a podcast about Wesley's one and how difficult that one might have been to come back from. But if it's a question of physicality, you know, sometimes these things can be out of your hands. But if it's a question of mentality, then he's sorted and he'll be back, won't he?
Yeah, I just really worry about what he'll be like afterwards. Like I want him to come back and be involved in the squad and playing games and getting up there, lifting trophies and all sorts. That's the ideal scenario for Tyrone Mings' return. But you do worry about the severity of that injury, the age that he's at, the kind of mental aspects that you've spoken about and touched on. Like, yeah, he might be coping well with things, but you might have a setback, and that might push you back further with your recovery as well. And I don't want this to be like the end of the Tyrone Mings story at Aston Villa. I didn't want it to end this way. That he kind of last season he should have been involved, and the first game, 25 minutes in, you wiped out for the whole season. The ideal scenario is that he's back day one for the Premier League and the Champions League this season. But what if he's not? What if this is worse than we think? What if he's not the same player afterwards and we don't see him in a Villa shirt again? Like, it'd be such a shame if that was how his story played out. But when you have an injury of that severity, these things can happen, and I really hope that's not the way that this story ends.
I say he was so good before his injury, wasn't he? The season before, he was so good. Every week he was so consistent.
He's been with us on this journey as well, and to not kind of get a taste of any European football, never mind the Champions League, would be a real shame. Okay, sad note. Anything more upbeat than that?
Hi lads, I'm with you, Dan, on Duran. If they can get 20 million for him to Chelsea, I'd do that. But then, fast forward to start the season, Ollie Watkins does his ACL in the first game.
Don't do that. Oh, God.
Well, it can happen. So, what's the plan B then? Sorry. Hey, I'm a pessimist like that. What's the plan B then? Because you can't go into the season just with Cameron Archer.
I love how, with respect to Ollie Watkins, that was booed more than Blues winning the Champions League or whatever it was. I'm so hopeless. What's the fella's name who absolutely ruined us in the semi-final for Olympiacos? What's the going rate for him, John? Well, he might be rubbish, but at least he'll never score against us ever again, will he?
What a horrible thought that is that you put into this conversation.
Possible. It's possible.
It is possible, yeah. I don't know, do Villa sign a striker of immense quality just in case that happens? That's probably not a good use of resources, but yeah, if Duran goes, we are going to need another forward, and is that player going to be able to play 20-odd games if Watkins gets injured? Who knows? It's a massive unknown. Ollie Watkins has got a good injury record, touch wood. That might run out at some point. You've put nasty thoughts into my head now, so I don't want to do this one anymore.
Yeah, we need a replacement for Duran if he goes. For me, Duran has all the abilities to be a very good backup striker, and I think he is. He needs to switch on a bit in training and in matches as well. But Villa will have a plan, won't they? They're not going to sell Duran and then go looking for a striker. They'll have a list. I think it'll be interesting if it's a younger profile or if it's a 33-year-old player who's been in the Spanish league his whole career and who now knows him well, that sort of thing.
How is Borja Baston? Is he still knocking him?
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. But Villa will have a plan. They have lots of targets. They've done groundwork on lots of players. So I'm happy with whatever they do.
Desperation territory.
I know. I like Duran. I think he's got something about him. He puts himself about. He's a bit different, isn't he? But whether they can persevere with him, I think it's clear. John, do you get the vibe off Emery?
I really like him.
Did you get the vibe off Emery? He's a bit fed up of him?
Yeah, the vibe off Emery is exactly that. This guy is loco.
Yeah.
That's how he's asked in press conferences. It's Duran is this, he's that, he's so good. And then you get someone in a Brummie twang saying, but he's loco, isn't he? That sort of thing. And then Emery knows what that means, of course. So, obviously, we don't watch training. We don't know exactly what happens, but there's clearly an issue there with whatever it may be. What I would say is still, 20? He's come from the USA via Colombia. It's going to be a shock for anyone's system landing in Birmingham. But I think there's a real player in there, and it'll be a shame that if he unlocks that talent elsewhere in 3 years. But can Villa wait for John Duran? No. If good money comes on the table, will they sell him? Yes. So,
yeah.
Unlike Matt, I haven't got a unicycle.
Do you want one?
No, I don't. But I have got an exercise bike, and the one thing that motivates me to get on my exercise bike is the chance to listen to the podcast. So thank you. My question is this. If you had the chance, would you take Jack Grealish back?
Nah.
Why not?
At his time, I think, he chased the dream, got the dream, and to come back now, I think at his time, didn't he? He did all he can for us, got us up. He was the player it was unreal. I was biggest champion. I mean, unbelievable. And I think he's been wasted at Man City now. And for him to come back to say, have us back. I'll jump in here for you. Not for me, no.
I've moved on.
Yeah.
I don't want to go for it again if we have it's a really good season. It's like, Real Madrid are in for him, and we have to go for it again. But you don't get the benefit of having that 100 million straight on the books. It's like a very sour note, and I think it takes a lot away from one Villa's project.
I would have you back.
You would.
Yeah. I just think it's a bit like your kind of childhood sweetheart. It's kind of left you for a better looking fella, if you like, or whatever. But you've gone to the gym, you've gone on your man's exercise bike here, you've got yourself in shape, and you're more attractive proposition, and it just still flickers. That little bit of love still flickers. I think obviously I'm a big Villa fan, but I'm also a realist, and I had this with the Dwight York was the one for me back in the late 90s when I thought we were on the brink of. I always thought we were on the brink of something. I thought Dwight York's the man who's going to take us there. He moves to Man United. But he's vindicated because he's won the treble in his first season. Now, it took Jack Grealish 2 years to win the treble, but I don't think you can necessarily begrudge him that. As harsh and as hard as that feels, I still think he's a quality player, and we know that he's been turned into a bit of a Pep robot, and he's not playing with the level of freedom. I'm not sure I'm not sure if he came back to Villa he'd be afforded anywhere near the level of freedom that he used to have when it was passed to Jack and make him do good things. I do think he's got unfinished business. I think he might go abroad before he goes to another Premier League club, and I think he's been linked with Bayern, hasn't he? I think in the last couple of weeks or whatever. Yeah, I'd forgive and forget, and I'd have him back, but he'd have to be of a level that he could compete and be an important part for Unai Emery, and I still think he's young enough for that to happen. I don't think it will happen, but I wouldn't be against it happening.
I don't think Villa have the money to do it. Well, certainly this summer, next summer, I don't know either. Grealish would have to take a huge wage cut. City would have to also sell him for a fraction of the price they bought him for. So for those reasons, I don't think it would happen. If he was to ever come back to us, would he be in a position where he could genuinely contribute? Because he's had injury problems before. I'd love to see him back in the Villa shirt, of course I would. But will it happen? I don't think it's a thing. And to be fair, I kind of agree with Ash. Yes, I'd love to have him, but also his story's it's almost done with Villa. What more can he do and contribute at the age of, say, 32 maybe? Because I don't see how Villa could afford it before then, because we'll have other things to do in the squad rather than just looking towards buying Jack Grealish when there might be a younger alternative anyway. So I think it'd be more of a sentimental signing, and Unai and Monchi, I don't think would do it for those reasons at all.
I haven't really got much to add, but I'm conscious that Dan really needs a wee, so I just want to fill for a little bit long. Just one quick thing, and I won't ramble on forever. But the question of talking about the exercise bike. Have you heard the?
Why are we doing this for?
Just wait. Just cross your legs. Have you heard Have you heard Big Ron's Paul McGrath story about the exercise? He might have told it when we did the thing, but he tells this story that.
It's like Grandpa Simpson.
You know Paul McGrath, he signed from Villa from St Pat's back in. Do you need the backstory? Do you need a bit more?
I've heard of him. Yeah.
No. And he tells this story. Obviously, McGrath hardly ever trained because of his dodgy, godlike knees. But he was on the exercise bike just doing some light training. And he's with Jim Walker, the physio, who was also his mentor. And Ron comes into the gym or whatever it is back then. And he says, Jim, what's happening? Why is Macca not on the bike? And apparently McGrath says, well, whenever I'm going uphill, I always get off and push. And I just thought that's just brilliant Paul McGrath. But anyway, I've got a couple more stories that I need to...
No. We're not doing any of that. The Grealish thing, he wouldn't get in over Morgan Rogers anyway, would he? So what's the point in spending all that money? We're going to wrap up part 2 there for the YouTube and podcast listeners. Thank you for James Rushton and Ashley Preece for joining us. Big round of applause for both of those two.